You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's Reign After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Reign After Show.
Hey. Hey guys, welcome to the AFTERBUZZ After Show for Reign Episode 3, Season 1, Kiss. I'm your host, coming to you from this desk, Fahnia Thomas, and with me tonight is...
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, it's Phil Svitek, along with my queen!
Woohoo! I'm your queen to be. For all those that know, Coming to America, Eddie Murphy, the reason why I'm dressed like this, not because I'm crazy, it's because it's October 31st, it's Halloween! Woohoo! So I felt it only appropriate to dress as my interpretation of Reign. So I hope you guys like it, I'm having fun. So let's get into the show.
Real fast, the song we're listening to, it's called Empire by Alpines. It's from the official Reign album, so check that out.
And I like it, actually.
It's great.
I
Building an empire.
That's right. I got my crown. I got my scepter. One day at a time. So let's talk about Greer. Greer, love her. Never been kissed until tonight. So we see her and she's talking about this boy that she has a major crush on. Come to find out that it's Thomas, the bastard son of the King of Portugal. So she's, of course, telling Mary about her crush, and we'll get to that in a second. But she's walking in the park, or not in the park. I'm daydreaming that they're in the park. They're walking in the forest, I guess, or outside of the forest, because the forest is dangerous. So,
yeah, by the castle, kind of that nice scenic route.
Okay, so they're on the ground.
Yes.
Okay, and she's talking to Thomas, and, they're just strolling along. And who do we see? Mary. And who does Thomas see? Mary. He likes what he sees.
I felt so bad, as an audience member, I feel that we're all on the same page, that it was just a recipe for disaster. And right from that moment, as soon as we had any sort of hint that Greer had her sights on someone higher, and especially with the teaser that we got, about Portugal, I was just like, ooh, this is going to not end good at all, and all these different things. And I really felt for her. And it's just so tough because she's just a commoner.
She's just a commoner. You know what? Here's one thing that I want this to be the last time it happens. It seems like there's a pattern, because it's the second time, where guys are coming in between Mary and her ladies in waiting. This happened with Lola. And, all right, I already forgot the other guy's name from last week that was dead, that was released. The one that died, they found hanging in the forest.
Yes.
That guy.
Yes.
So I just feel like it's becoming a trend, and I don't like that. Like, why does Mary have to be the chick that's taking her homegirl's crushes? I don't like that. So let this be the last time.
Well, I mean, it's just one of those things. It just goes. One of the things that I absolutely love about tonight's episode is we're getting more of the politics behind everything, and unfortunately, it's not necessarily Mary, wanting to do this.
Right.
And we'll talk about her and Thomas more specifically, but in terms of she is who she is. She has a status. She's one of Mary's women. She's from Scotland, things like that. And so that is her place, for better or worse. And as she explains, the only hope we have is to marry into this, to have land or title, because, none of us are really born with it. So we have to gain into it. And it just kind of sets a nice picture of how tough it is. But you feel for her, but also that's ultimately her destiny.
That's true. We did learn that she has 4 sisters that are waiting for her to be the bread and butter for her family. So she is carrying a lot on her shoulders. Then we also find out that she's interested in the grocery store guy. We don't have his name yet, but
Commoner number 2.
yeah, she called him a servant. She's like, you can't even read, you're a servant. But yet he becomes her first kiss. So I'm so excited that she finally is virginized and got her first kiss tonight. Obviously, that is the name of the episode. So good for her. Glad it happened. And she went and got her flirt on. She was like, I will go get this, whatever we need from the grocery store. Send me. I'll get up early in the morning. So that was good. I like that. I'm happy that she was able to move on so quickly from Thomas.
Yeah, I'm glad so too. And you know, it does present it's obviously the theme of tonight is politics, but also, you know, is it for true love? Are there alliances and things like that? And how do you kind of navigate these waters? And obviously Mary, we'll talk about Mary, but in terms of Greer, she kind of like, there was no chemistry between her and Thomas.
No, there wasn't.
Not at all. And so, you know, there's chemistry between her and the shop boy. And so is it good? But the irony is, I don't think it's going to end well, unfortunately.
I think it's because it's like the forbidden fruit. There was no interest with her and Thomas because she was doing it for political reasons, like you said, for her family. And with the grocery store guy, it's just like there's something about him that she likes, but it's like she can't. She has to help support her family. It's that forbidden passion, which we're seeing all throughout tonight. And great segue to Kenna and the king. So we see the king leave with some other blonde chick. So he has the queen, he has Diane, the mistress, and he kind of had Kenna in the wings waiting. And now we see him get on a boat, which, P.S., by the way, I loved that scene outside with the fire lanterns and the red boats. I want to have a party like that on the water. Loved it. But it really sucked for Kenna because the king publicly in her face takes another woman on the boat.
Yeah, and Bash had a great kind of explanation for this of he likes to play games, and that's what he's playing you right now.
Shame, shame, shame.
I liked the little exchange. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about, and this is the most awkward thing for a son to be talking about his father
and his sex life.
His attention.
Oh,
they were talking about their attention.
Oh, is that what that was?
In those times, attention means sex.
Oh. Dirty dog. I guess, but kings are allowed to be that way. It was acceptable back then. So,
but you know, I mean, what I like about it is obviously he's on her mind, as she states earlier, right? They're playing that game and going back to Greer.
That's true.
That's where we find it. You know, what was? Don't tell me about your first kiss. What was your best kiss? And it was by a man, not a boy. And so obviously referring to the king. And, you know, then you kind of, just a few scenes later, you see them in the hallway, but she's not ready to go all the way with him.
Oh,
and that's what, we'll take it according to you, of course. Which,
right.
Not of course.
Not of course. So let's talk about the king and his son Francis. So, well, actually, let's back up for a moment. Let's get to cover. So we find out that England is invading Scotland, and Mary's uncle comes with a letter from the mom and like, you know what, we need help, we need troops. Mary goes to the king, as you all saw, and was like, hey, I need your help. Give me, 6 companies. The king was like, not gonna happen. This will make us a bigger target for for England, so they're not gonna do it. Francis is on Mary's side. He wants his dad to send in the troops. I love that. I love that he stuck up for her.
I love that he stuck up for her, but part of the early, we'll talk about later their relationship, but in the early rounds, the problem was that he was doing all these things, but Mary couldn't see the efforts to which he went to. And he did go, to at least in his eyes, to quite a few, especially with the sword fight between him and Henry. And he won ultimately, but instead he got a lesson out of it instead of 6 companies.
And that lesson was that his father did what?
You always make promises, and it's you don't need to keep the promises as long as kind of everyone's overall happy. I don't quite remember the full lesson because it wasn't the greatest lesson.
It was an awful lesson. I don't want that lesson. So King Henry, he's just kind of in a mood this episode. They're at a party of they're at a party, and he calls out Nostradamus to tell the future. He's sick of Nostradamus whispering in the queen's ear. He's like, enough, tell the future. And he tells Lola.
Here's the for in terms of that, the problem for me, it reminds me of have you seen Lord of the Rings? I imagine a lot of our fans have, but
yes, but I can't. It's been so long.
They had the whatever, the eyes or the crystal balls, whatever you want to call them, and every time people kind of saw a vision of the future or whatever. And the problem is that when you rely on these visions, for me, what I learned from that movie, and I carry into this, is that you can't really believe what they're saying. And as Nostradamus says, I tell the truth, and sometimes that's bad. But, it's a partial truth because you're just getting a glimpse. You don't know the full context. And so it makes people react in these sort of different ways.
That's true.
That eventually it leads to this whole thing, but it's a catch-22. Had you never seen the vision, would this actually have happened and whatnot?
Right. So it's like when you go to the fortune teller and you feel like, I think I'm gonna die early, and she predicts your future. Like, yeah, you're gonna get cancer because you felt so sick. I follow. So, but it did come true as far as him saying the lion will fight the dragon on the field of poppies. That came. Well, we saw what that meant, and poor Greer. She thought the man with the white face was Thomas, and it was so cute when she's like, "Hey, I think I see a little white mark on your face." Oh, bless your heart.
I don't think the funny part is I don't think she knew that it wasn't him, but she was desperately trying, which again, the white mark later on, was what he put on his face, was the flower.
Right.
But it was nice to kind of yay.
Aw, bless her heart. So that happened. Also, we have to address the passionate Portugal love tango. So here's what I want to know. Where did Mary learn those moves? At the convent? I mean, that was a really nice, passionate dance they were doing.
Sometimes you have to do what you have to do for your country.
I mean, hello. I love this CW and all this passion they're giving us. The passionate kisses with the king and Miss Kenna. Love it. So let's talk about Thomas. Thomas, at first I thought he kind of sounded like the cat from Puss in Boots. Did you get that? No?
Kind of, but not really.
I feel like I know a lot of you guys that are watching are like, enough with the accents. They're not on target. So I just felt like, oh, yeah, he sounds like Puss in Boots. So he's like, Mary, I will marry you. I will support you. I will give you the troops that you need. I don't want anything to do with Greer. And gives her opens up a box of jewels and pulls out a ring and gets down on one knee. I think that was amazing. Like, he's someone in this time that's going for his heart. It's not political with him. It's like, you're a girl that's just like me. You're in the trees, you're wandering around, and I love that.
I want to know, we obviously know that it's a good move for Mary, but I want to know for him, and he, we're kind of just getting his perspective, but what it really means for the country of Portugal, should they enter into this, and how that's going to mess with France. They didn't really bring that aspect of it in, which I'm sure they will, because it's going so well at a really good pace. But ultimately, I love how it kind of complicates everything. We never forgot. What I loved about it is, and specifically, if we're talking about the dance, how Queen Catherine was just thrilled by this. More Portuguese music.
She does. She loves anything scandalous and to keep Mary looking bad, because it was a little odd for this queen who is due to be married to the prince to be dancing so sexually with, this bastard son of Portugal. Like, so she's all about it. Crafty Catherine, I tell you. So should we move on to?
Well, let's talk about, in terms of Thomas, what's tough is, right, she was, Mary, strategic or not, was forcing, a decision out of Francis, and she was trying to be as patient as she could, and
right.
Ultimately she did get what she wanted, but then, obviously Francis forced her hand in the other way and said, you have to. What was nice about that, the episode's called Kiss Is, And so obviously, as Mary admits to Greer, she's never been kissed either. Now she has.
Aww.
So for me, it was an admission of love on Francis' part, and especially because he's talking about, I've been blinded.
Right.
But ultimately, he gives up his power because he nor France can do anything. He says, go with Thomas.
I liked how he did go and stick up to his dad and was like, you know what? I'll tell on you. I'm going to tell Mom. I'm going to tell Diane that you're having another affair. I like that he came up with some way. I mean, he was pushed by Mary because she was like, my back's against the wall. I have no other choice. So I like that he did, fight for her in that way and stood up to his dad.
But here's the tough part, in terms of him. What I love about the show is that it's making it tough to kind of really pick a side because Henry does present good arguments. Now, he didn't, the fact that he kind of knew about what was going to happen and it was a small cash, that was your son, Bash, let alone, 6 companies, you could call that non-significant or whatever.
Right.
But, especially to have your son, bastard or otherwise, that was a nice kind of story device to bring him down towards the end and to make us not side with Henry, because early on it became really tough of okay, I know I want to root for Mary, but the king is correct in his views of when's it going to end? First it's 6 companies and then more and more. So
but isn't that how nations get won? I mean, it's pretty much going to war is evident and having to, stick up and uphold your borders. It is hard to pick a side, but
well, I'm with Mary ultimately.
Yeah, they do make it difficult, but I did like how I didn't like how the king said it was a cheap lesson. Like you said, that's your son. I mean, half via your mistress or not, that's your child. How do you say that? So basically, Sebastian is off to save the day again. Once the king is like, yes, you can go ahead, send the troops. Don't tell my ladies that I'm cheating on all of them. I mean, they obviously already know, so that was kind of interesting because the wife already knows, and so does the mistress, that he obviously sleeps with other people. So what's another person? Who cares if it is Kenna? So Sebastian's off to save the day. He goes to tell the companies, and we find out that while he's out to tell the companies, that somebody went ahead and told England what was going on. And then we see Sebastian riding in on a horse, wounded. I like Sebastian. I love his blue eyes. I'm so sad to see him hurt.
I mean, luckily he's not, the tougher part would have been if he had died, which, obviously he didn't, so he'll survive this. But it was a tough episode in terms of the politics and what the full king's involvement in this was.
Right.
Remains to kind of come to the surface, and especially if Francis finds out about it, as Catherine and him were hinting at. But again, I just love it because he, it just presents so many different sides. Because what's interesting enough, Mary's going through this whole thing, and she's trying to be as scientific about it as possible.
Right.
And she's marrying ultimately, while Thomas is marrying for love, she's marrying for the troops. And that's kind of exactly what the king's also doing is, the fact that he's unwavering to give up 6 companies and call it a lesson, and that doesn't mean anything to him. He's a utilitarian where he just looks at the numbers and is able to justify it that way, which is not too unlike Mary.
Yeah, I like how Mary isn't being portrayed as just a pushover woman who is just sitting around, eating cake, and she's actually being proactive, and she's fighting for Scotland, every step of the way. I like that she's just not your typical, queen sitting around, or she's not being, deceitful like Catherine. It's just she has a cause, so I like that. I like to see an independent woman.
And you know what Thomas did? Thomas really nailed it in terms of her description. While she has a lot of qualities of each of these people in the good sense, what she also has to her is the spirit, right? As Tom said, you're climbing trees and you have this energy about you and kind of Prince
Yeah.
Charles points it out as well. You're not like a woman. And so I love that aspect of it, and that really is the thing that differentiates her from everybody else.
Yeah, even a little boy noticed it that she was playing kickball with.
Yes.
Love that. So I think we've covered most of the show, most of tonight's show. It isn't as jam-packed as the first 2 episodes, but it was filled with a lot of stuff, and obviously Thomas, adds in another layer of, suspense. What's going to happen? Is she going to marry him? Because as we saw, in the end,
they ride off.
yeah, Francis was like, go marry him. He feels devastated that, he went to his dad and fought for his dad to send the troops, and his brother came back hurt. So he was like, you know what, there's nothing I can do. And they said it in, earlier on in the episode, like they don't have any power. So he's like, go ahead and marry him. And then we see her.
But the one thing that the king told Francis, win or lose, this is, like a king, this is now your responsibility.
Right.
And little did we know at the time that was a foreshadow of like, you will pay for this because this is not going to go the way you expect it to. And
Never does.
And it comes at a moment where finally Francis and Mary, they're happy, and again it taters that line of, okay, with Francis, she can have love,
right,
in theory, and also have an alliance, and they're at that table of like, okay, they're gonna go here and blah blah, and then we get the news. And so just at that high euphoric moment, everything comes crashing down.
Yeah, Sebastian with his blue eyes hurt. I felt like I was stabbed for a moment. Yes, so then we see Mary and Thomas at the docks, whatever you call it back then, and we see the lion ready to go fight for her. So,
well, the dragon.
Or the dragon.
Because England's the lion.
Oh, okay.
Portugal's the
okay.
dragon.
The lion will fight the dragon on the field of pop. Okay.
Yes.
And there they are.
And I like how they kind of, it wasn't subtle at all with her, but I'm glad that they made, they brought that reference for people who might have not necessarily caught it, so I don't mind it.
I probably was one of those people. I can't even laugh. I can't even front. I was probably one of those people that needed that. So thank you, CW.
But overall, it was, for me, what I loved about it is now we're getting into more of the politics, and even we don't need to see on the front lines of the war and things like that. We kind of get it, because the real drama is reflected within, every character that comes in and out. The
right.
uncle. Last week we had, the Brits, or
it's
the English, I should say.
It's the decisions of, love, family, your country. Like, whose side do you choose? How do you appease all of these sides that you have loyalty to? Which comes first? And if you choose one, the other one loses. Like, I couldn't do it.
Yeah. And for me, the tough part is also kind of this, as this was happening and knowing that Francis was doing his best, and before we saw what had happened, for me it was tough because I was like, if I was in Mary's position, yes, I would try to kind of take control of the situation as best I could, but ultimately, what would that be a better? It's a short-term goal. Is that the best way? And I know you're trying to achieve something, and so it was tough because knowing that Francis was going through all those different things.
Right.
So I was really torn, and I liked that aspect of it, how they really plucked at those strings. Prediction time?
Pluck. Yes, let's get into
Let's
some
do it.
predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
It's not easy doing this in a costume.
Well, doing predictions?
Yeah, predictions. And we know it's quite relevant for tonight's event, and that it is Halloween. I love that prediction music. What are your predictions?
Well, we get that amazing shot, although very quick, of it seems like Francis literally just on top of Mary. So obviously
Dun, dun,
jealous.
dun.
And as we saw glimpses of it in tonight's episode, especially with the dance, as we
Right.
pointed out. And so that'll be interesting to kind of see and how that's going to spark a feud between Thomas. Yeah, Thomas seems he's slapping people in the trailer and things like that. So we'll see.
Yeah.
If he really is a nice a guy as he's come up across to be.
There's some shade there. I think there's something going on. He has yet to get the paperwork that said he is been accepted to be the king next in line of Portugal. And we also heard in that preview that, he might be somewhat abusive. So we're going to have to watch out for him.
And again, going back to Greer's line, the only way you can kind of gain into everything is land and title. And so for him, by marrying a queen, obviously that's an up. And, okay, so, right, we talk of sacrifices.
Right.
What is it to sacrifice 8 companies right then and there just to gain all of Scotland?
Absolutely nothing.
That's
Ooh,
right.
I like that, Phil. I like that. I like connecting the dots. Speaking of Greer, I think she's going to give in to the grocery store guy. I think she's going to give it up to him. I think she's going to go ahead and let love take over. And I mean, that's her first kiss. Like, you're so totally smitten.
She's gonna let passion take over for a moment, but it's gonna be her boo on the side until we can find something better.
I wonder what they called side boos back then, aside from mistress. But
attentions.
Oh, that's right. Well, that's the act.
That's
but the person is what?
I don't know. I'd have to look through it. But yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Oh, iTunes, folks. Phil's got a great message for you about iTunes.
Fair enough. Obviously, we're this show is new, but it's quite the hit on CW, and so as we kind of amass our fans for AfterBuzz TV, the Reign after show, let a friend know that hey, we're out there. And spread the message. It really does help. And you know what? Yeah. More importantly, also, rate and comment. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know your thoughts. For those of you who are unfamiliar with AfterBuzz, we're trying to, our whole goal is to have a community and have you guys participate in it. We offer our thoughts first, and then we want you kind of build upon them, agree, disagree. So let us know what you guys are thinking. What's great is some of you have already written a lot of fan mail to us. Whether via YouTube comments, iTunes comments, or info at AfterBuzz TV. But, a lot of you have amazing theories, and that's one of the aspects for me that I love is seeing all these different perspectives that I or Fahnia might have not thought of.
Yeah.
And
I read them.
That's what makes it fun, and ultimately, I think, really builds the community. And so, as this show continues to grow, let's continue to grow our community here at AfterBuzz TV.
Thank you, Phil. Wow. Yeah, and I read them. Yes, you guys, thank you so much. I now understand about the heathens in the dark forest and how to pronounce it. Notice that I did not enunciate them this evening for fear of getting it wrong. So I read the comments and I love them. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
In the meantime, where can fans follow you?
They can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Fahnia Thomas.
And, of course, follow us here at AfterBuzz TV. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff. If you want to write in directly, info at AfterBuzzTV.com. And I can't say enough. Great episode. Really fun show overall where it doesn't take itself too serious.
Yeah,
but
it's
there's
fun, light.
A lot of plot development, and I'm interested to see where it's going to go. As I know he is. And we will have... Keaton will be back next week. We're going to have some other people as well to, we're just like Reign is expanding, we're expanding our...
I know you guys are tired of looking at just me and Phil.
Well, building the community. So the more hosts we can have, the more kind of perspectives we can bring in, and it's just going to be more fun overall. So we like to build the community. So see you guys next week.
Good night.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.